If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment. Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel and another tutorial. So I am super excited to be sewing along with you today the Victory Bowler Bag, a Pin It Up Patterns pattern. As you know, Pin It Up Patterns is a collaboration between myself and Anna of Galaxy Customs, and this is our fourth pattern. Now, this intro you will also see in another video, as we have two tutorials and two separate patterns for this pattern. We know not everybody likes to bind bags and not everybody likes to birth bags. So we have written this pattern so you can choose which way you would like to finish your bag. Those patterns are separate. You can either buy the birth version or you can buy the bound version depending on what your preference is. Anyways, in making the two tutorials, the birth and the bound, you will see me go back and forth between the two materials of this, as there are certain sections where the bags go together the same. It's just when you get to the last half of the construction, things get switched up a little bit. So yes, you will notice jumping between the materials of both, but it'll still give you everything that you need. Let me show you some of the amazing features of this bag. So this one here is the bound version. This one I didn't do with the piping. Now I find doing piping, especially when you're doing vinyl piping, a lot easier to do on, say, a birth bag. That is why on the birth bag here, I did my vinyl piping on this one, but not on this one, especially if you're on a domestic, because if you're doing vinyl piping or anything like that, that seam does get really thick, whereas piping on a birth bag, you're not going through as many layers. Anyways, bound version. My favorite thing about this is this reverse applique. I just love it. So we got reverse applique here. We have a regular applique on the corners. On the back, we have a zipper pocket with overlay, purse feet, double-sided straps. This one I chose to do with hidden connectors and handles. Again, you can do it just like a crossbody. It's kind of one of those build your own to what you want to make it bags. You can add in whichever features you want and take out any features you want. You could even, if you didn't want to do the applique and you wanted to do an embroidery or show off the panel, you could just not cut out the section and you'd have just a beautiful palette for doing whatever you want on the outside of this bowler bag. It has a double zip closure. The zipper goes down very nice and low, and look how tight on this bound version that lining sits in there. So this one I've decided to do with two slip pockets. You could also do one large slip pocket if you prefer, and a zipper pocket. Again, this one is bound. Now this one is the birth version, and as I said, I decided to do the piping, and I do show you how to do this piping and how to make this piping in this tutorial. Crossbody connectors, purse feet, everything is the same except for the handles. And on the inside, I decided to do one large slip pocket rather than two. And it opens up nice and wide, and that lining sits in there nice and tight. Just love it. This is not a hard bag to make, I would say, and it is an adventurous beginner pattern. We are super proud of this one. We are in love with this one. And we hope that you love it just as much as we do. Now, the guts of this bag. Okay, so both of these bags I made in vinyls from Galaxy Customs, of course. This one here is made in the Viva Las Vegas. I think that's what's called the glitter vinyls from Galaxy Customs. I do not remember the names. I know that the gray is Obsidian Pearl vinyl, and the glitter vinyl, I want to say it's Pin It Up Pink, but I don't know. Don't quote me on that. They're on her website. Take a look there. This one is done in the Obsidian vinyls, and the white there, that's Wedding Chapel White Glitter. I remember the name of that one. All of my hardware is from Emmeline Bags. My zipper pulls, I am not sure where they're from. I have subscribers send me presents all the time with zipper pulls and everything. I believe that they were from somewhere in the States, but I'm not too sure from where. My lining, this one here I did in a cotton lining, and I did a bias tape binding to match. So you can barely even see it in there because it matches the lining so well. You can do whatever kind of binding you like. Again, I do bias tape binding in this one. You could do fold over elastic, you could do waterproof canvas, you can do you for whatever you prefer for your binding. Now, the birth bag, this is the twill canvas from Emmeline Bags on the inside. The birth bag, you birth it through an opening in the bottom and close up that opening through the pocket of the zipper. If you did our up and away bag, this one goes together very similar to that one. It's a very unique type of birthing process, but if you are familiar with our up and away pattern, and then you will know how it goes. Again, it is not hard at all to do either of these bags. Again, I myself, and it's just me, find it easier to do piping on a birth bag rather than a bound bag, but it's completely doable on a bound bag, of course, as well. So yeah. 100% domestic machine friendly. Again, just be very, very careful on what you choose for your vinyls. Like for the bound bag, I may probably, if I was on my domestic, would have chosen to use the pearl vinyls, as the seam where we bind it does get rather thick. The stabilizer in this is foam. Don't be scared of that. What's nice about the foam is when you're turning it out and everything, you don't end up getting all of those wrinkles and everything from the adhesive not sticking with, say, a Decovil Lite or what have you. Now, on that note, if you do not like foam, in this video, I do show you how to trim that foam back to make it nice and thin in those seam allowances, so it's not a big deal. But if you are not a foam person, all I would say is cut your Decovil Lite or fusible interfacings to 5/8 of an inch outside of the seam allowances and make your own and stick them on nice and centered, and you should be good. You'll just have to be careful where the appliques are when you're doing that. So yeah, if you don't like foam, you can definitely do that, but there's just something about the foam in this bag when you go to put in the appliques. I mean, do you see that squish and that pillowiness? That is what makes this look so great. I mean, it's so retro vintage, which is totally our style, and foam just really does help give it that extra special something something. But again, you can use whatever stabilizer you want. Just make sure you're keeping it out of that seam allowance. I do have Decovil Heavy in the bottom for my bottom stabilizer. What else? Well, all my cotton pieces I backed with EB Fuse Lite, which is similar to an SF101. I did use Giardini edge paint to edge paint all of my raw edges. That's completely optional. So I did this raw edge along here because this is a raw edge, as well as the raw edges along these appliques here. And of course, my zipper pocket overlays, same thing. What else? Oh my gosh, I'm just so excited to be making this with you. Again, you will see different fabrics going through. Part of this video, depending which one you're watching, will be the same as the opposite one, as the panels go together the same way, and it's just in the second half where they'll go. So you'll see me like doing the main panels of this one for both of the videos, but then I'll switch to this because I'm going to be showing you how to do the piping. So these are going hand in hand. And then of course for the strap, it'll be different materials again, because this is the signature pin it up patterns crossbody strap, which we did in our aviatrix bag. So I just took the footage from that and put it in here because I explained it so well. Then I don't think I could do the explanation any better than I did that very first time that I did it. So anyways, yay. Anna and I are very excited to have you sew this along with us today, and I'll catch you guys on the other side.
You're going to need some rivets, number 5 zipper tape, some piping, optional piping, some binding, 2 swivel clasps, slider, 4 rectangular rings, 2 D-rings, 4 purse feet, 4 zipper pulls, and your nameplate. You're going to need your handle pieces, crossbody strap pieces, your connector pieces, 2 for your D-rings and 4 for your handle connectors, your main front panel with that front section cut out as per the pattern and the lining piece to match, your back panel and lining back panel, 2 exterior gusset and lining pieces, your reverse applique piece, your bottom panel lining and exterior, Your 2 sets of corner appliques mirrored to one another. Your zipper panels, 2 lining, 2 exterior pieces. Your slip pocket piece. Your 2 zipper pocket linings and applique pieces. And some foam. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we are going to start with our strap here. So you're going to measure in 1 inch from each of the short ends on the main strap piece. This is the 2-inch wide one. We're going to use a little bit of double-sided tape at that line and then fold the short ends into that line, bringing it in by a 1/2 inch fold over to the wrong side. Next, we're going to take some more double-sided tape or clips, and I have already drawn my center line down the wrong side of this piece, and I'm just going to put my tape down the center and then fold the long sides into that center line. This should create a 1-inch wide strap. Once you've done one side, do the exact same thing with the opposite side. Again, becoming 1 inch wide. Once that's done, we're going to go ahead and from each of the short ends again on the wrong side, we're going to mark in 1/2 inch. Between those 1/2 inch marks, we're going to go ahead and we are going to put another strip of double-sided tape down the center of the wrong side. Once that's done, we're going to take our accent piece and line up that short edge with that 1/2 inch mark that we made and stick this down nice and centered to the wrong side of that strap over top of that tape. Now we're going to take this to the machine and we are going to top stitch with the accent piece up. So make sure your bobbin thread is really good because we are sewing from the wrong side currently. And what we're going to do is go in with 1/8 of an inch from each end on the very ends here, and then we are going to follow the accent pieces 1/8 of an inch in from the accent pieces to sew this into place all the way around. This is what that looks like done. Now we want to flip this right side up and we're going to take our slider and put one of the short ends through like so, folding it over that center, wrong sides together, and then securing with a rivet. Now go ahead and take one of your swivel clasps like so, feed the other short end up and around that center bar of our slider, and then take your other swivel clasp and put it on the end like so, and fold the short ends in about 1 inch or so, wrong sides together, and secure with another rivet. Now we're going to prepare our crossbody connectors. So you're going to take the 2 shorter connectors. I've drawn a center line. I'm going to use a little bit of double-sided tape and fold the long sides into that center. You'll do the same with your 4 rectangle ring connectors as well. Now for the D-ring connectors, what we're going to do is we're going to slide the D-ring on, put a little piece of double-sided tape along the bottom, and fold it over that D-ring wrong sides together like so for both. Next, we're going to use our pattern piece for the placement of our purse feet, and you're going to go ahead and install your purse feet as per your manufacturer's instructions. Now in the next clip here, you are going to see that I have my connector pieces already on my gusset pieces. Please do not do that yet. My footage got corrupted, so I had to go with some old footage here, so please ignore the connectors. You're going to take your gusset, line it up with the bottom of one of the sides of your bottom piece, push the seam towards the bottom once you have that sewn and top stitch through the bottom. You're going to do the exact same thing with your lining pieces. So again, you're going to go and sew each of the short sides with the longer side of the gusset pieces at the seam allowance. And then you're going to press that seam towards the bottom panel and then top stitch through the bottom panel for both sides. And this is what that looks like done. You can see my seams are going towards the bottom panel, and the same with my lining piece. Again, ignore that I have my connectors on there. Okay, now what we're going to do is take our completed bottom gusset here. We're going to lay it over top of our foam, and we're going to use this as our template for attaching our foam. Okay, so you can see here I've cut my foam slightly bigger than my bottom panel. The reason we do this is so we can kind of go in with our scissors at this kind of angle here. I think that's a 90-degree angle to trim back that foam to reduce some of that bulk. It gets it nice and close to that stitching and flattens out that foam really nice. And you definitely will want to reduce that bulk for binding. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've cut my applique piece here. All I did here was I drew it out on the back of what my applique piece would and made sure it was about a 1/2 inch larger all the way around. And then on our applique piece here, we're going to put some double-sided tape along the top and bottom edges on the right side. Okay, then what we want to do is take the paper off of our tape, flip your main front panel wrong side up, and your applique is wrong side up, and you're going to just line this up over that opening like so. Now it is slightly bigger than that opening, so it should fit in there nicely with about a 1/2 inch hangover. Now you're going to take your corner applique pieces, and with some double-sided tape, you are going to put them into the corners like so. If you put your double-sided tape in the middle of your applique, it will not get into our top stitching lines. So if your machine is sensitive to the double-sided tape, you don't have to worry about it here too much. So make sure you do have them going the right way. And then we're going to go ahead, we're going to take these pieces and we're going to put them on the foam using this, again, just like we did with the bottom piece. And then once we have the foam cut out and basted on, we're going to go ahead and top stitch around that applique on the main exterior piece. And then along these applique pieces on the corners, along the corner applique pieces. So first I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to baste my foam on. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull my threads long here because I'm going to tie them off in the back so we have a nice and seamless top stitch. And on the main panel side, I'm going to go about 1/8 of an inch away from that raw edge, which I have also edge coated all the way around to secure that reverse applique in place. Next, we're going to go ahead and we are going to do the same with our corner appliques, but this time you are top stitching on the corner applique, not on the main, because this is a regular applique. It is not a reverse applique. All the way around that curve. Nice. Take it slow. When you're doing this top stitching for the appliques, hand crank to get around those corners and to get nice sharp corners, so you know exactly where your needle is, so you get a nice and perfect line all the way around. You'll do the same with the opposite side. Okay, so this is what that looks like done. I've also gone ahead and I've already put my nameplate on up from the bottom. I'm going to put some tape on the back of my prongs just to hold that nice and secure. And now we're going to work on our strap placement. So we have these little lines here. I'm just folding them back for our strap placement on our pattern piece. We're going to make sure this is nice and center, using it as our guide. And I'm just going to draw out that shape like so. Now, following the measurements in the pattern, once you've got both of these drawn, you will repeat these same steps with the back panel, of course. And this is if you are doing the handle option. So this is preparing for our hidden connectors. So once you have that drawn, you're going to look at your pattern piece, you're going to get the measurements, and you are going to mark those lines as per the pattern measurements. So I'm going in to the sides like so, from those marks we made, and up as per the pattern measurements, up like so, and we kind of make this little, and go from the diagonal corner all the way up to that other line, just like this. So you're going to make all of those marks as per the pattern measurements. Okay, once that's in place, you're going to take your X-Acto knife and just along those 3 lines that we drew, so those 2 little diagonal lines and that line up from that bottom line, we are going to cut through all of the layers. Now you may need to, actually you will have to cut away some of that foam. You want to cut it away so it's not going to be too bulky in there. So you're going to cut up these diagonals and then across this line here. So it folds under, and this gives us a hidden connector that does not have a raw edge. Cut away the foam around where we'll be installing that connector just to reduce some of that bulk. This doesn't have to look pretty. You just want it to be kind of out of the way so it'll allow for this to fold under like so. Do the same with the opposite side. Now we're going to take our connectors and you're going to mark the 2 lines up from one side as per your pattern measurements. You have your connector wrong side up, your main panel right side up. You're going to put it into that slit. Now that slit should be nice and snug. You're going to pull it down to that first line we drew and make sure that that little slit that we cut, it's folded under so we do not have a raw edge. Get that in place, and along that second line, we're going to go ahead and stitch along that line and just through the connector for both. This is what that looks like all done. So that secures that in place like so. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to take your rectangle ring. Again, you want to make sure you have about a 3/4 inch from the top, which we do. Take your rectangle ring, put it on like that, and bring the connector wrong sides together and pull it through that opening like so. Next, what you're going to do is you're going to flip this up and we're going to stitch. You'll see that little cutout that we did, and we're going to stitch as close as we can along there without catching that main panel just through the connectors. So installing your zipper foot or narrow foot here is really going to help get nice and close to that main panel without sewing through that main panel. All we want to be sewing through is the connector and that little kind of flap that we created with those little cuts that we did to install the hidden connector. So fold it back like this using your zipper foot nice and close, and secure that in place. You will do the same with the opposite side. Gone ahead and installed the other connector. I have riveted them on about 1/4 inch down from the fold line, backed with some scraps of Decovil Heavy. Now we're going to work on our back panel. We've already put our foam on. Now you're going to use your pattern piece here for the placement of our zipper panel or our zipper pocket with overlay. And you are going to stick this down with some double-sided tape, and then you're going to go ahead and install that zipper as per the instructions in the pattern. Now, it's your standard zipper overlay installation. If you need a class on how to do that, it is down below in the description for how I install that zipper pocket. At the same time, I'm also going to take this and I'm going to put my corner appliques on, just like we did with the front, and I'm going to stitch those on. And that is our back panel all complete. Okay, so this is the section if you are making your own piping. So I am making a vinyl piping. You can definitely use a cotton piping as well. I've drawn a center line down on my piping pieces like so. I'm going to use some double-sided tape down that center line, and that is going to help hold that piping in place, the foam welt piping that I will be using. Once you have that done, you're going to go ahead and along that center line, you are going to stick down your cording that you choose to use for your piping. Next, you're going to go ahead and you're going to bring the long ends wrong sides together like so and secure with some clips all the way down. Once that's done, we're going to take this to the machine and we are just going to go ahead and baste that in place. Now we're not going tight towards the piping just yet. We are just going in with what the pattern says for our first seam allowance for our piping, just to make everything stay in place for now, to make it easy for when we are installing this on the main panels. Once you have that done, you just want to double check that you definitely do have a 1/2 inch seam allowance from where the cording kind of folds in to the end, as this is a pattern. We have to have the seam allowance for that. Okay, so now what you're going to do is go ahead and put some little snips all the way along the piping so it'll curve around those corners. And now we're going to go ahead and from the center, we're going to mark on the right side there 1 inch in and 3 inches in. You're going to line the end of the piping up at that 1 inch from the center mark and start clipping it around. And you'll see that those little snips that we did into the piping will help the vinyl curve around those corners nicely. Go ahead and clip all of that in place. Now once we come to that other mark that we made, we kind of want to transfer that marking onto our piping like this, because we are going to stop our sewing once we hit that mark. Now what we're going to do is trim this up to about the center line or the center mark of our bottom panel like that. So our piping is now overlapping, just like so. You're going to measure in a 1 inch from that center mark on our piping, and that is where we're going to start sewing. And you're going to follow the stitch line from when we basted it together before, making sure to stop at that line that we marked on the opposite side. Next, what we're going to do is kind of bring those cords together, and we're going to mark where the starting cord was and make a mark. We're going to pull our basting stitches out of our piping like so. Pull back the outer part to reveal the cording inside, and we are going to cut that cording nice and flush with the cording on the opposite side, just like so. And then we're going to kind of, if you're using cotton, you will want to fold in a little bit under so you don't have a raw edge there. I didn't have to do that with the vinyl, but I am doing it just to show you how that works. You're going to kind of put the one side that we started with inside this side, making sure that the cording from where we cut away bunts up with the other cording. So kind of like how we do binding. And this is a really cool technique, so you don't have to veer the piping off at that bottom. It's a nice and seamless around and a little less bulk there. So go ahead and baste that little section in place to secure. So that is what that looks like complete. Go ahead and do the same with the back panel. So I went ahead and I did my lining pockets already, leaving the zipper pocket open for turning. If you need a class for that, it's down below in the description. Now we're going to work on our zipper panel. So I've already gone ahead and I've cut my foam, just using my zipper panel as my template. Now along the top side here, I'm measuring down 1/4 of an inch, and before I go and baste, I'm only going to baste the 2 short sides to that 1/4 of an inch along the bottom, leaving the top open. And then from the top, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to measure down 1/4 of an inch and mark a line, and we're going to cut that foam away at that 1/4 of an inch line. And this is just to create so we have less bulk when we go to sew the zipper onto here. So you'll do the same with the opposite panel. Now another thing I like to do is I just like to take some tape here, just put it along the foam here, just to make it so the foam isn't flopping around until we get everything sewn in place. Next, we're going to do our zipper panel. I'm going to use double-sided tape. Feel free to use some clips here. I like to cut my zipper longer like so I can put a clip on the end and put my zipper pulls out of the way. Now on the exterior piece where we have the foam cut away, we're going to put some double-sided tape, or you can use clips on the right side. And then we're going to take our zipper tape, put it right sides together and stick it down or clip it down to that tape. Next, you're going to do the same with the lining piece. Put some tape or clips along that one long side. And you're going to put this right sides together with our exterior piece, sandwiching that zipper tape, making sure they line up nicely. Then you're going to take this to the machine and you are going to sew with the seam allowance in the pattern all the way across there. Next, what we want to do is take those and fold them away from the zipper, wrong sides together, and then go ahead and top stitch just underneath the zipper like so to hold the seam in place. This is what that looks like done. Again, you want to make sure your lining and your exterior can move freely of each other. Go ahead and repeat with the opposite side. So this is what we got. Go ahead, pull your zipper pulls into the center and trim off your excess zipper tape. Now what we want to do is we want to take our lining of our zipper panel and kind of clip it out of the way. We want to be very certain that we are not catching this in any of our stitching we are about to do with our exterior panels. We're going to take our exterior zipper panel and our exterior gusset panel and put them right sides together like so. And then we're going to go with the seam allowance. Again, double check the seam allowance in the pattern as it's smaller than the regular seam allowance. And we are just going to sew on either side of the zipper panel to where the lining meets without sewing through the lining. So you're going to go with that seam allowance right here. Make sure to backstitch at start and stop. Get as close as you can to the lining without sewing through the lining. Break your thread, hop over to the other side and do the same thing. That is what that looks like done. So you should have kind of a hole here that you can stick your finger through with the seam going down this way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch it with the seam going down towards the gusset. We're going to just top stitch to about 1/4 of an inch away from our zipper panel top stitching. We want to make sure that we are leaving an untopped middle section for when we go to attach our lining panels, and it also leaves a place where we will be installing our crossbody connector. So again, you're going to start at the end here and go to about 1/4 of an inch just before the top stitching of the zipper panel right here. Make sure to backstitch at start and stop well. So that's what that looks like. As you can see, we have a little opening here. That is what we want, an untopped area. Now we're going to go ahead and we are going to repeat the same with the lining side, folding the exterior out of the way, making sure we are not catching the exterior in our lining stitches. The only thing we're going to do different is we are not going to top stitch the lining. So go ahead and do the exact same thing like so. All right, so that is what that looks like, just like that. Now we're going to take our connector and it should fit nice and snug in here, and you're going to slide it into that opening in between the lining and the exterior like so. I'm using a glitter vinyl, so it took a little bit of effort as it is kind of sticking to each other, but it is so worth it. So yeah, it should slide in there nicely. Nice and snug, not too loose. Pull it through the layers. And then we're going to go ahead and we are going to pull the lining and exterior gusset pieces wrong sides together like so. And then we are going to finish off that top stitching through all the layers just in that middle section where we did not top stitch before. So from here, backstitch well to here, backstitch well. that's done, you can go ahead and install a rivet just through the exterior and the connector, making sure the lining doesn't get caught on the rivet. Go ahead and do the same with the opposite side. So this is what that looks like. Go ahead, undo your zipper. And you want to make sure you're keeping your lining and your exterior working freely of one another. Now you're going to take your exterior front panel and your exterior gusset, match up at that bottom center like so. Again, making sure the lining's tucked out of the way. We only want to be sewing through those exterior pieces. Same with the top panel, pushing the lining out of the way. And then we want to match up our quarter sections. Now our corner appliques there, the top of that should line up with that seam where the gusset and the zipper panels meet. That'll be 1/4 section. Same with the opposite side. Now we're going to go ahead and evenly distribute the fabric in between each of those quarter sections. And in the corners, if it looks like it doesn't want to go around, you're going to go ahead and put in little 1/4 inch scant 1/4 inch snips within the seam allowance around those corners to help spread that gusset around the corners like so, so it will fit. It'll be a nice snug fit and it should fit perfectly. Go ahead and do that all the way around this side of just the exterior panels. You can see I am not a stranger to clips. You do want to add lots of clips so it doesn't go anywhere. We're going to go ahead and sew around that with the full seam allowance. Now, if you have done the piping, I've changed into a piping foot here. You could also use a zipper foot or a narrow foot just to help get nice and close to that piping. Now you want to be very aware of where your piping is because you don't accidentally want to sew over it. You just want to be right next to it. This is what that looks like done. Run your finger along the seam. Make sure your piping looks good. Mine does. Now what we want to do is go ahead and do the same with the opposite side, only catching the exteriors. So there's our exteriors done. They look great. You can kind of pop it out, make sure everything looks good. Now what we want to do is we want to do the same with the lining side. Now, the only difference we're going to do here is the side that we have the slip pocket on, we are going to leave an opening pretty much from seam to seam like so, and this is going to be our turning hole. So we will not be sewing through this side or through that bottom section between those sections there. Now this looks a little bit confusing, but I promise you it's not. You want to squish that bag. This is another reason why using foam is good, because you do manipulate the bag a little bit. We're going to match up that top center like so of just the lining pieces. And then you're going to match up the bottom centers. Once again, knowing we're not going to be sewing the side with the slip pocket completely shut at the bottom. Clip that in place. And go ahead and evenly distribute that fabric all the way around once again. Now you do kind of have to, it's going to want to pull in on its side of itself. That's what I'm trying to say. But that is okay. But you'll see if you kind of pull it flat, you will see that your panel is going to sit flat. So just work with it. This is why we do the lining last, because we can manipulate that lining. And this is also why you don't want to use anything too thick and too slippery, because you want to make sure this stays in place, because it is nice and tight and it is wanting to move around a little bit. So you definitely don't want to use anything slippery here. So take your time and clip it all the way around. Once again, you can see I've used a ton of clips. You can see how the panel has gone on, but you will see it'll want to look like a flower. See how it's folding into that center zipper? That is okay. Again, make sure your zipper was open. You definitely need that zipper open. Finish clipping, and then we're going to go ahead and sew all the way around here from that mark to mark, leaving that one opening in the bottom for turning, putting it nice down on your machine bed like so, nice and flat, and sew all the way around. Once you're done with that side, go ahead and do the same with the other side, but you do not need to leave that turning hole. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to make it so our lining does not fall into the bag. So just on the top curvy parts of the bag, we're going to bring the lining and the exterior seams together, for about an inch or so, clip in place, and then we're going to sew just right between there in the seam allowance with about an inch of stitching. And what this will do is make it so our lining does not flop down inside the bag. You'll do the same on both sides. So there you can see I've got it on 4 sides. Once you have that done, go ahead and turn this through. Now it makes it look like it's hard to turn through. I promise it isn't. Remember, I am using a glitter vinyl and a thicker vinyl, which makes it a little bit more challenging, but as you can see, it's coming through. Just go ahead and massage it. Another good thing about using foam is you can squish it without worrying about that interfacing coming loose. So I've got it inside out now, and I'm going to put it right side out. And you want to, as you go ahead and push out all of those seams, making sure they are all nice and taut all the way around. Double check your piping. My piping looks amazing. So happy with it. And once it starts coming through, it comes through so fast with that birthing. Double check everything looks good, everything was caught. And now it's time to close up our turning hole. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull out that zipper pocket that we left open, reach in through that zipper pocket, and bring through the entire bottom of the bag so we can sew the opening in the bottom shut. Once you get that pulled out, you're going to match up the gusset center and the bottom center and clip them in place. And then we're going to sew the turning hole shut from where the stitching started and stopped when we originally sewed that side on. Once that's all sewn, go ahead and stuff that back in through the pocket. Make sure there's no holes, it looks really good. And then turn under the raw edges of your zipper pocket lining, clip in place, and then top stitch that opening closed as well. Okay, so that is done. Stuff your pocket back in. And that is pretty much it. If you did the handle option, you would attach your handles at this moment with rivets. This one is just the crossbody version, so I do not need to worry about doing that. Double check everything, make sure everything looks good. Massage out those seams, she looks so pretty. Attach your crossbody strap, and that's it. We don't have to do any top stitching. She is done. Great job, everybody. I hope you love your victory bags. And we're done.
All right, that's it. That's all. What do you think of that? I'm very curious to know which version you prefer to do. If you're watching the birth tutorial, let us know if you're doing the birth one or the bound one. Both of these patterns are separate. Well, they're the same bag, but different patterns because they do go together differently. So you can go to the Pin It Up Patterns page, which is on the Galaxy Customs website. All of that is linked down below. Make sure you choose the pattern for the finish that you want. So either choose the birth version, or the bound version, or try them both. Anyways, I can't wait to see all of your makes. Make sure you share them in the Pin It Up Pattern Sewing group, which is all linked down below. Share it over on my Beans Bags page. That would be amazing too. If you've used Galaxy Customs vinyls or materials at all, make sure you share it on the Galaxy Customs Facebook page as well. We just want to see all of your makes. We are so excited to have come up with this one for you guys, and we just want to see your versions of it so bad. Anyways, if at any time you did like this video, please do give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. That helps me out in so many ways you have no idea. If you'd like to support my channel further, you can always buy me a coffee. That's linked down below in the description. Check out the membership side of the channel. There may be something there that sparks your interest as well. And until the next one, I'll catch you guys again. Bye.